Everyone, it is Natalie from Being Intentionally Creative, and today we are going to be working on a commission piece. Back before Christmas, I had done a piece that was, well, I'll show you instead of trying to find my words today. So I did this tray, and I incorporated it in with it this paw and heart. So basically what I did was I did the sides in two colors, and I'll be going over the colors with you. I did the sides up to the lip here in two colors, and I rotated back and forth between the two colors. I let that set up. I also did the paw in the same sort of format as what I did the sides. We let that set, and then the next color I went in with was just a clear so I could get this set down into the piece. And then I top coated it with another color. And then what I did was, once I took it out of the mold, I had to put World's Best Dog Groomer on the piece. And then I covered that up with a clear resin. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're doing the exact same colors as the other one because that's what the person has asked for. And I thought, well, if I'm going to be making it anyways, what a perfect way to make a video. And you know, maybe you'll learn some tips and tricks, or maybe they'll just give you some ideas of your own. So I'm just going to cover this up. I cleaned this out. I washed this out with soap and water. I think the last thing I'd had in here was mixed to mold. And I've run into problems before where I haven't cleaned my molds well enough of the mixed to mold, and it hasn't affected my resin piece. So highly recommending you clean out your molds. Especially if you've used mixed mold in them and then you're going to do resin. Just clean them out as best you can. Most of the people I've seen have recommended, I would say soap and water. I use dish soap and water, and I put it on one of my paper towels, soap it up really well, dry, like rinse it out, excuse me, really well, and then wipe it with a paper towel again. So that's what I do. I'm just going to cover this up. I'll end up, giving that one last swipe and cleaning it up before I start getting to work on it. So we'll get this out of the way. I'll move my colors out of the way. And then I can show you what colors I'm going to be using for this. So we're dealing with black, white, and gray. The person that I did the first one for, those were the colors of their dog. And it only made sense to me that those were the colors I used in the tray. Now, interestingly enough, this person had just wanted me to do a simple ornament that had World's Best Dog Groomer on it. And I went, I can do better than that. So I made the piece and showed it to them and said, okay, like this is what it looks like. And that was before I put the writing on it because I didn't want to put the vinyl on it and then find out they didn't want it. And I was totally cool with making it. They loved it. We went ahead, we put the writing on it and went from there. So their dog has like a mix of colors in it. It's a schnauzer. It's a big schnauzer. I think he weighs, he may weigh around 100 pounds or so. He's a big, I've got a miniature, and these people have a large. I've never met the dog, but he's large. Anyway, okay, color-wise, what are we doing? We are going to be using, for the black, we are going to be using Eye Candy Ninja Black and Let's Resin Dye Black. I wanted to make sure the black was black, so that's why we're doing those two colors. Okay, so for the white, we're doing sort of a combination of different. So I have a Shiro White Eye Candy. I'm going to be putting just a touch of the Granite Gray in that by Eli Chem Resin Tint. And we are going to be using some of the Let's Resin White as well. This Shiro White it doesn't have a lot of shine to it from what I've been able to gather. And it's a bit thicker from a mica powder standpoint. So we're going to be using that. The only reason I'm really adding the Let's Resin in because it's got more of a shine to it. And I kind of want that in the piece as well. So we'll be doing those, the black and the white, I'll call it that, are going to be the first colors, we start off with to get the base, get going with it. Normally what I would do with a piece such as this is I would do the two colors, let it set up, you know, for a few hours, and then do the clear. But unfortunately, because I'm doing the foot, not the foot, the paw and the heart, I want it to set for 24 hours before I put it into the piece. So this is going to be a multi-day event as such. For the base of this, what we're going to be using is a shadow gray. And this is a really pretty color. It's, and I'm pretty sure, like when I'm looking at the pictures online, and I'm very grateful I have my picture. So if you're doing pieces like this, two recommendations or two things to think about is, one, write down your colors. I'm not always good at doing that, but writing down your colors, especially if you might have someone else who comes along and says, I really like that, and they want the same colors. Now, I do tell people that I can't guarantee that, you know, the coloring is going to be the same. I just can't. We know what resin's like. We know how it mixes, you know, having the exact amounts. I won't guarantee that, but at least I had written these colors down so I wasn't starting from scratch. What was the other thing? I had two things I wanted to recommend. Maybe how, and this, I'm not sure if this is it, maybe how and what colors. So I've got my colors written down, but I didn't indicate what went with what. Now it's obvious the black, that's easy. When it came to what the granite gray was going to go into, that was a bit of a, I hadn't really marked that down, but at least I had written down the colors. So I guess as much information as you can, if you care to, or you're like me and you just say, I can't guarantee it, and it'll be what it is when it's all said and done. But I just, those are, if I think of anything else that I think is important or you might want to think about or consider when you're doing pieces like this, well, you know me, I will tell you throughout. I am going to mix up my resins. I will get them all mixed up, and then we'll do the pour, and we'll have to let things set up until the heart paw is ready to come out. So I'll be back in a little bit. Well, too funny. I started pouring and didn't have my camcorder going. So here we are back. I am just going back and forth from one color to another. I'm not going to be able to show you a whole lot of what I'm doing because I've got to focus and concentrate, but I'll bring you back for some of it. So as I say, I'm just going back and forth. When you're doing something like this, at least for me, I've got to really be concentrating and really focus so that I don't get resin where I don't want it to be. So that's something you're going to want to pay attention to, is that you know, well, just pay attention to that. That's the best form of advice I can give you right now. I'm hoping, I've started with the tray. I was going to start with the dog paw, but I decided to start with the tray just in case I don't have enough. I'm really hoping I do. I made between 30 and 40 mil. So I'm really hoping I have enough. I am being extremely careful doing this because I don't want to get, not that I can't clean the resin up if I get it where I don't want to get it, but I don't know about you, but if I can avoid getting things where I don't want them to be, then that's what I prefer. Now I did get some up around the side here of the black, and I'm just going to clean that up, and I'll make sure I get things cleaned up before I carry on with the next step. So basically this is all I'm doing, is I'm just going around and I'm going one color to the next color. Now how much you put in of one color to the other, I mean, that's totally up to you. I mean, as I say, you know, when it comes to resin, you know, it's not a precise. And as I say, you know, I tell people I'm not guaranteeing that pieces are going to look identical because, you know, I can't do that, and I won't do that. If someone wants something to be identical, then I have to be able to make everything at the same time, and that's a challenge. Now, the other thing I had to do was oh my gosh, the number of bubbles I had in my resin was just beyond. I couldn't believe it, actually, to be totally honest with you. I'm going, what the hey? So I mentioned in one of my last videos, or I don't know, that I bought one of the Isotoa. bubble remover. Now I did use it. It worked okay. I definitely think my resin was too cold. I did warm it up. Anyway, and I would have shown you the bubble remover, but I had to move my camera to set it up, and you know, long story even longer. You didn't get to see it. It didn't do too bad of a job. I'm gonna have to do a better run through with it at some point. But I was, you know, wanting to get going on this, and so yeah, you didn't get to see that. Did it remove as many bubbles as I thought it would have? Yes and no. I let it go for, what was it, 9 minutes? 9 minutes. 9, maybe 10 minutes. Because like I say, I used my mixer, and maybe that was a mistake using my mixer to mix up the resin. I'm not sure, but I wanted it well mixed. It had a lot of bubbles in it before I even got to the point of putting it in the bubble remover. But anyway, it did remove some of the bubbles for me. Stop. Talking to myself now. I want the resin to stop. I'm making a bit of a mess. I'm going to have to clean this up. Now, the other thing I will be doing too, besides cleaning up the side of my mold, I will be using my dotting tool to sort of mix up the resin a little bit, like pull the white into the black and vice versa. Just a little bit though. Nothing too, you know, major for sure. You can tell I'm concentrating, can't you? All right, let's get this. Now I'm getting black and white, so I will have to do some cleaning up for sure. And I think I'm going to have to add a little bit more. My recommendation for doing something like this is I should have gotten those plastic cups that are smaller than this to get the pouring better than I am into these spots. Make a lot easier. Yeah. It's starting to now it's starting to annoy me. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up some of this mess that I've got going on. I don't like when I make a mess. So I think I'm going to have enough resin left that I can do the paw. I'll use one of my mini micro brushes here to clean up around the sides. One of these. Yeah, I have to put a bit of alcohol on this or I'm not going to get this clean the way I want to. Because I do not want the any of this black or white getting into where the gray is. So I am going to carry on. I will bring you back once I have the paw filled in and got the rest of this done and cleaned up. I'll remember to turn on my video this time. All right, this part of the video will be short and sweet. Anyway, I have my paw filled in now. The resin was starting to set up. So, yeah, it didn't go in there as easily as I'd hoped. So fingers crossed that will come out the way I need it to carry on. We've got the tray done, as you can see over here. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to cover everything up. And then I will be back in approximately 24 hours for us to take this out of the mold and carry on with our next step. And that's it. That's all for now. We'll be back. We're ready to move on to our next step, what I want to make sure of is that my paw heart turned out okay. As I mentioned, it was really thick when I put it in here. I want to make sure that it's okay before I move on to my next step, just in case I need to make another one. I'm hoping I don't. I just want to make sure it's okay though. So let's get this out, and hopefully I had warmed it up a little bit. That's got a crack in it. I'm sorry. As I move, there's a tiny little slit in the resin down there. Or not in the resin, in the mold. Okay, so let's have a look-see at this. No, this looks really good. I mean, yes, it does have some air bubbles in it, but nothing I'm overly concerned about. Okay, perfect. I didn't want to be mixing up my next, my resin for my next part of this and, have some great big gaping, air bubble somewhere, but we don't. So that's good. That's good. That's good. So I'm going to mix up my resin, and then we'll come back and we will carry on with doing the next step. So the next two steps actually are the easiest ones. This was the more challenging, getting, the black and white into the sides of that and doing it for this paw print, but we're good. The other parts are relatively easy. So I'll mix up my resin and I will be back. I have my resin mixed up. I only mixed it up, well, okay, let me rephrase. I used my mixer for about 2.5 minutes and then I mixed the rest by hand. Again, I had warmed my resin up before I started mixing it. I don't know whether it's because I'm getting to the bottom of the magic resin or something else, and that's why I'm getting the air bubbles I'm not really quite sure. Anyway, so I thought do half and half, like do half with the mixer and half by hand. So it seems to have helped, and then I've let it sit for a couple of minutes just to sort of settle down a little bit on its own. So what we're going to do, and what I should have done first and I did not do, I should have gone around the edges again. I had done around the edges, but I do have some spots. So let me just take my gloves off, because we know what masking tape and gloves do. They don't work together. See all these little things I need to be thinking about, and then I don't. And I want to be really careful that I don't separate this from the edges of the silicone. I don't want to do that. So we'll have to be really careful. Hopefully, are we in camera there? Yep, we are. Good, good. Get some of this around the sides. With the gray, it really won't matter. I want to not get the clear really with any of this stuff on the sides of it. And as I say, I'm being really cautious when I'm doing this, so I don't accidentally break that seal. Again, the last thing I really want to have to do is to do this over again. Tricks of the trade though, right? Sometimes you have to. If you're really lucky, you don't. Alrighty, I think we've got most of it. So what creative stuff are you guys up to today? And as I mentioned before, creativity, it comes in all kinds of magical places. It isn't just doing the kind of stuff I'm doing. So always remember that. Alrighty. All right. So as I say, the next two parts are the easy part. Actually, the next three parts are the easy part. Easier part. So what we're going to do is we're going to start pouring our resin in, and then we're going to place this. And I had to think about it. I don't have my picture up anymore, but I know I placed this at this end when I did my last one. And I want to get it on this section right in here. So let's do this. I wonder, no, you know what? I'm not going to do that. Pour some of this resin in, and then we'll put a little bit of the resin on the paw before we put it in. Now I have a question for you. Don't you just love I have questions? I measured out using, and I'll show you the measuring cups in a second, to measure out 60 mils. Okay? When I went to pour it into the measuring cup that I mixed it up in, it didn't even register at 60. You know, I sort of got over 40, which is really interesting to me, because I, you know, sort of have the expectation that the cups I use, you know, sort of will match up with other cups, if you get what I'm trying to say. And yeah, these two, I think I'm making 60 and I'm probably not, which I find really, really interesting. So I just thought I'd ask you that. Have you noticed that you've made or you've measured out your resin? If you do, I know some people just pour and go. I'm not sure how they do that. I can't do that. That doesn't work for me, but I just wonder, like, if you're like me and you measure out and then I eye it up to make sure we're level, do you ever find that the next cup you put it into is like, oh, I thought I had mixed up, but apparently, you know, it's showing as I didn't. So I'm just curious to know if you've had that experience. And like I say, I can show you what I mean in a minute. Just need to get some of these air bubbles out. Okay, I don't like that that's there. All right. Now, I think I'm going to pour some more in here, just so I can get it over the edges into where the white and black are. I think my tap's dripping. I'm going to have to take care of that, because that's not going to be good if my hot water is dripping. Okay, let me just quickly go and check on that, and I'll be right back. I can hear it, and I know it's not the water going into the sump pump. Just give me a moment. Okay, let's get back to this. All right, now I do want to work on getting some of these air bubbles up. Now, I hope I don't have what I think I do over at the side there. Okay, I better not fuss around with this too much, eh? Or I am going to have regrets on that. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put yeah, I have some air bubbles in this, darn it. And they're sunk down, which I don't like. Yeah, so how much time do you think I'm going to spend doing this? If I couldn't see them, that would be brilliant, but unfortunately I can. And I didn't use my debubble, my get rid of bubbles machine. All right, let's get some of this on here so that we can place it down. Again, I'm doing this so that there's the connection between this and the resin that's in there, right? Because I like to do that. And then what we're going to do is pour some of the, like, we'll get some of the resin going into this in-betweens spots. All right, let's carefully place that down. We'll move it around a little bit as we need to. There we go. Now I'm going to very carefully, let's get that out of the way and we'll move this up, very carefully push this down. And hopefully, now, will it matter if we have air bubbles under this? Not really, because when I take this out of the mold and I put the vinyl in it, I am then going to be covering the vinyl with a clear coat. Now, do I want bubbles? Absolutely not. Of course I don't want bubbles. But if we did get some, hopefully they're nothing too substantial. And, you know, it won't make a big deal. Now, I'm being a little fussy on my placement. All right, I'll do that. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pour some resin into the, into the empty spaces just to fill it up, because I really don't want any gray going into those spots. So we're just going to very carefully fill this up. It won't matter if it goes on, you know, the white and black parts, but I just want to have all the paw sections and the heart section filled with clear resin. And then we'll very carefully take the rest. And what I want to do is I just want this to go to the top of this piece. It doesn't need to go over top of it, again, because the gray is going to do that. So we'll get some more of this poured so it can float around. Now I don't know if at this one side I've pushed the silicone away from the resin, the black and white. I'm not sure on that. And off camera, I will work on getting rid of the bubbles to the best of my ability. It'd be nice if I totally knew why I was getting them, but I don't. So just clean this out, and then I'll show you what I mean in regards to the cups. And the rest of this piece will be filled up with the gray, the shadow gray. I don't think I need any more in these, but I'll just put them in anyway. And I might just shift that paw just a little bit. All right. And what I'm hoping to do can't breathe and talk at the same time, is let this set for a few hours and then see about coming back, instead of leaving this 24 hours, coming back sooner than that to get the gray put on this. So I just want to, just going to move this a little bit. Alrighty, so I'll take care of bubbles to the best of my ability. And we seem to have enough resins to the top anyway, so pretty decently to the top, so we should be good on that. Okay, let me just cover this back up and let me show you what I meant by the cups. So, and it's something just to be aware of. It's sort of here's a tip, because it's only been sort of recently, and today I really noticed it. So these are the measuring cups that I was using today. They go up to 30 mil. So I did 30 mil, or darn close to 30 mil. So obviously expecting 60 mil in my cup. Well, in this cup, and those are, do you remember the marker video we did? Anyways, it came up to, just give me a second to wipe that off, maybe to about here versus where I expected it to be. So that's something to be aware of when we're trying to calculate how much resin we need. I was thinking I was going to end up with 60, and I ended up with, well, maybe 45. I definitely didn't end up even with 50, so I'm not sure what's going on there. And maybe what I need to do is, moving forward, is, you know, use these bigger cups. I don't know. It's really odd to me. I might have to do some playing around with that. But I just thought I would share that with you, just in case you've, you know, mixed up your resin and thought you had X and you're ending up with Y. It may be just because of, you know, the differences in the containers. It seems kind of odd to me, but you never know. Okay. I'm going to take care of the bubbles. I'm going to make sure my paw heart is where I want it to be. And when I'm ready to do the shadow gray, we'll be back. All right. It has been approximately, I want to say, what did I figure, 5.5 hours since we poured last. We are now working with our smoky gray. Let me rephrase that. I can read shadow gray. That's what's going to be going in next. I warmed up my resin twice this time. It seems my part A, and I'm sure you've noticed this yourselves, is the one that had the majority of the bubbles in it. And I've also, once I got this all mixed up, I sprayed some alcohol in the top of it, and then I let it, well, then I sort of worked it in, and then I sprayed it again. Just to work on getting some more of the bubbles out. They're not bad, and I did not throw this in my debubbling machine either. So I'm going to have to sort of get into the practice, I think, for the winter to, start using it, or I'm going to have to go back to mixing by hand, which doesn't float my boat at all. I have a mixer. I'd like to be able to use it. However, if it's just going to introduce all kinds of bubbles in the wintertime, then I might have to rethink that. I did want to mention something to you that I sort of noticed this morning for me, afternoon now, no time lapse in your world, that one of the stir sticks I had used, I'm just going to cover that up to keep some of the dust out, had sort of flecks on it. It had been used for another color. What I decided to do was I got some of these sticks that had no color on them whatsoever. I put some UV resin on. I want to put another coat on it. And I thought, keep these for just using what I'm doing with clear resin. So I don't get any decontamination. Oh my good Lord. Contamination from the sticks because there's been color on it before. So I just thought I would do this to give it a coating, but I'll do another coat on it just because I know that using wood introduces air bubbles. So I want to have some sort of sealer on it before I start using it. But I just thought I'd throw that out when you're doing this, and if you're working with clear resin, to have sticks that have nothing on them, no color contaminants on them. Because you don't want that getting into your clear resin. For me, it's not going to be a huge deal because I'm putting gray over top of the clear. So I'm not overly concerned. I did spend a little bit of time making sure that I had, gotten anything out of it. But I just thought I would, add that as a sort of a helpful little tip in case you've run into that problem yourself. So let's get this poured so then I can cover it back up and we can carry on with life. So here we are. Just get my stir stick out of here. put it off to the side and then very carefully start to pour this. I'm not even sure where to pour this right now, but we'll just pour. And we'll go up and around. This is a really pretty color. I'm excited to try out the gray paste that I have for my candy, because I think it's going to be a really nice color too. I made up 100 ml of this. Here's hoping that it is enough to pretty much fill this. I can't remember what I used the last, like how much I made the last time. So I figured, well, I'll make 100 and go from there. Oh, that's so interesting. All right. A little mesmerizing. And I'll probably take my dotting tool and just go around, because as you can see with me pouring this in here, that it's making worm-like shapes, which I don't like, so I'll probably end up moving this around with my dotting tool just to get it. I mean, I know it'll pull itself into the center, but I want to make sure I don't have what looks like a worm on the bottom of it. And I'll be very careful, because I do not want to touch the clear that's under there, because we know it won't be completely set yet. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is just stop right there. I'm going to go over this with my lighter. I'm probably going to spritz it with the alcohol. Now, I wanted to mention too, when I first got into resin, going back a couple of years, I remember watching one video, and I have no idea who it is, and she had commented, like, when it came to the bubbles in resin. Now, back 2 years ago, things were just getting started in the resin world, and she had, commented and recommended pouring your mixed resin into a shallow dish, flat, like this coaster, and getting the air bubbles out before you poured it into your mold. Now, that's an option, and I kind of thought to myself, do you want to do that with this gray? You wouldn't have had anything big enough to expand this out, so really not an option for me. But she had taken just like a round coaster and poured it in, and then used the long net lighter on it to get rid of some of the bubbles. So I mean, that's always an option. I think the resin has come a long way, so you don't necessarily need to do this, but it, again, it depends on the climate. I've said from the beginning, when it comes to winter here and down in my basement, it is cooler than it is upstairs, and even upstairs, I don't keep it all that warm. So just something to keep in mind. Another option to, maybe work on getting bubbles out of your resin. I don't think it's 100% possible to not have bubbles, but I could be wrong, and maybe some people are fortunate that they don't, You know, they don't have, you know, some of the issues I have. You know, other countries I know are incredibly warm. But here in Canada, oh, we get a mix. And I know some of the states are getting, you know, snow, states that aren't used to it. I know one of the people I watch, she lives in Texas, and they've gotten snow. So I think it's a challenge when you live somewhere and you get snow and you are not used to it. Very fortunate here in Canada, we get snow all the time, every year, regardless. We get snow, and you know, we're prepared for it. I appreciate that there are other places that you see snow and it's like, now what? Okay, so I'm just going to spritz this from high up. There we go. I always love how it does its things, the way it does that. So I'm going to take the rest of this resin, and I don't know do what with it, but I'm pretty much up to the top now. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to watch for the bubbles and get rid of as many of them as I can. Now, I will let you know that whenever you spray alcohol, you should never immediately go over it with a long neck lighter. I find if I leave it for a few minutes, the alcohol evaporates off, and then you can go over it with your long neck lighter. But make sure you give it some time to sort of settle and evaporate before you do that. I know I'm guilty of it. I have spritzed it and then taken my lighter and yeah, don't do that. So be very careful if you're going to spritz with alcohol that you give it time to evaporate off before you go with your long neck lighter. Okay, so that's an important tip, a very important tip. I'm sure you all know that, but I'm just putting that out there please be careful if you do that. So I'm going to find, I don't know what to, I was going to put it in my huge tea light thing over there, but there's not enough of it left. I made around 100. I used different cups this time to measure out my resin. 40. And maybe have about 10, maybe 10 mil left, give or take. Anyway, okay, the next time we come back, we are going to be taking this out of the mold, and we will carry on from there. I thought before we took this piece out of the mold, I would quickly share a couple of things with you, because that's what I like to do. I wanted to show you what I had done on the other side of the lips that we had created in one of our videos when we were dealing with the cookie cutters. So I used some of the Simon Hurley Astro paste and one of the stencils I had. So this is the one side. I haven't done anything with the top yet, and I've mentioned before that when you do this, you can always sand down if you get something onto your piece that you don't want, but I thought I would show you that. So that's their purple, Prom Queen, I think is what that color is called. So it's just got such a nice, there's so much glitter in that stuff, like Glitter City. And then this is the other side of the big heart. So that was the side we'd done in the video. And this is the other side I did. I did include some of that Artist Loft Color Shift paint in with it as well, because as I said, I really like the Color Shift. I think it's an amazing product, and I don't know if that's really giving you really an idea, but I thought I would share that with you as well. The other thing I wanted to share with you, I was in Michael's, and I don't go to Michael's near as much as I used to, but I was in there the other day because I was in town. Creatology has some really cool things out for Valentine's Day, color-wise. This was a kit of these pieces. That's coming off. And what they did was they have this purplish color, but they had a lighter version, more of a pinkish out. Here's some of the others. And then these little crystals, well, they're not crystals, they're plastic, but you get the gist. That they had out too, and I've got an idea for pieces like this. Anyway, I thought I'd show them to you. What did I pay? Those were $7.99, I think, and there must have been, I'd say 6 to 8 different sets of them. that you could purchase. So just in case you're looking for something for yourself, because you're just sort of getting into this, or you have young kids that want to do something, these might be of interest to you. Now, what I did do, because I had leftover resin of the shadow gray, I made a couple of hearts using a mold I bought at Dollarama. Heart mold. This is what it looks like. Anyways, I made the leftover and I used this. So I'm thinking what I might do is do a video on this, but I just thought I wanted to share this with you, and I said, well, you know, this is what I did with the leftovers. I've got some ideas for finishing these up, but I just thought, hey, I'll show these to you since, you know, we're doing stuff like that. I like to show you what I've done and, you know, give you, you know, again, ideas on what's out there, what we could be doing, what you could be doing. Okay, I'm just going to put my gloves on because I don't want to get, I just want to put my gloves on so I don't think about finger. So here's our back. Let's get this out, and hopefully we're good on the front. You know, yeah, on the other one, I had it over on this side. I had the paw on this side, not on the side I have it on. You know, I've got to get better at that, remembering which side I need to put things on. Not that it matters. We can put the wording on the other side. It doesn't matter which side it's on. So yeah, there we are. Now, I'm very fortunate. I do have some air bubbles in this white and black stuff, probably a little more than I'd like to. But overall, it looks pretty decent. So now I just have to find out about the wording, and we can go from there. Hey everyone, I'm back. I have to be honest, I was going to scrap this video. Part of the reason I was going to do that was because I'm not happy with this piece. I have a real sense of needing things to be, I'm going to say perfect, even though I know nothing in the world is perfect. There were some things that I didn't like with how this turned out. And because of that, as you can see on my desk here, not over here, not so much over here. Yes, you can see it over here. I'm making another one. I get very anxious when I'm making pieces for people, especially when I know it's a commission piece. And because of that, I want it to be as good as it can be. What don't I like about this piece? Well, first of all, I don't like that this is on this side. I want it on that side. And also, I hope you can see, we have this black, white, we have clear, and then we have the gray. Now, I don't want that much clear in here. I think part of the issue was that I didn't get enough of the black and white poured around the outside. So I was very careful when I did it this time, or my second time, to get it as level with the top, or this part, with pouring. So I mean, I was sitting there as being very strategic. I put the black and white into these little cups so I had better control. I mixed my resin up by hand. I didn't mix it with my mixer because I didn't want to deal with the air bubbles. I used the Bond Craftor for this new one that I'm working on because I don't have enough of the magic resin. And I have air bubbles, which I have said more than once that air bubbles are part of the process when it comes to resin. They don't have to be, but I feel that there's no way to get absolutely every air bubble out of resin, but I could be wrong. I did not use my debubbler for these new pieces that I'm making. I did the paw heart first, so I could just get it done out of the way, and then I went on to this other piece. So I'm not going to show you the making of the second piece, but I will show it to you when I'm done. And you know, it's interesting because when I did the original one, I never looked to see if I had this sort of clear section through here. To be honest, I don't remember. So that's something I can't account. So maybe I did. But I did notice there were sections. So over here, you'll notice there's not as much clear. And I hope maybe you can see that. There's not as much clear there. But if I go around, you can see more of the clear. So I don't want that. I really hope with this next one that I'm not getting that. As I say, I want this over here, and I want my wording to go here. The other thing I noticed too, which is another reason why I want this black and white to be level or more level, and we talked about it, was having clean stir sticks when you're dealing with clear, because you're not going to be able to see it, but I can. When I look through here, I can see the, how do I want to put it to you? The sort of remnants of what was on the one stir stick in the clear, which I don't like. See, because you can see through, you can see sort of the dirtiness on the inside, and that's not flying for me. So I took a bit of time. I sat with myself and I went, okay, I need to know when I send this to the individual that it is the best I can do, and this was not the best I can do. Some people may disagree with me on that. Some people may go, you're being too hard on yourself, and that's fair, and I need to work on that. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you because I think it's really important. I recognize that I don't have to be perfect with the pieces I do, but I want them to be absolutely the best I can do. This isn't it. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this one. I'll think about that. I question putting something around the outside here to have it so you can't see through it. But again, I'm just making this more challenging than I need to. So I'm going to stop there. I am going to finish the new piece up. And I have something under here, but that's sort of for maybe for another video. But once I have this completely done, I will share it with you and we can compare the two at the end of the day. See you then. Welcome back. Okay, we're sort of getting to the end of this video. I did another piece, as I mentioned earlier, before we took off, and I said I'm going to do the other piece before on my own without having a camera on. So I'm learning, as you know, we do as we're doing pieces, that sometimes you have to do pieces off camera. You're really doing yourself a favor. At least I am. I guess I'm not going to speak for everyone. I'm going to say that I am learning that if I have a commission piece to do, I really need to do it off camera without feeling the pressure of getting a video done. And that's why this second paw that we did was done off camera. Okay, so we're going to demold it. What I'm not going to do is we're going to end the video once you get to see this, and I'm going to share a couple other little things with you. Then I'm going to reach out to the client and find out a couple of things, and then I'm going to carry on. So let's get this out. I'll tell you a couple of pointers on this, and then that will be the end of this video for you, and then I'll carry on. So I was very diligent. I was very slow with this second one. I really thought through the process of what I needed to do, and it went much smoother for me. I wasn't rushed. I didn't have a camera going, so it was easier for me. It was a much nicer journey. I love doing videos for you guys, but I realize for me anyways that sometimes I have to just take a step back and not get involved. So here is the second one. We have now the paw print on the side I want it on versus the wrong side. Now, having said that, absolutely, I got sprinkles in here from something else. It could go this way, and I could put the wording over here. Not a big deal, but for me, I'm a left to right kind of person, especially when it comes to something like this. So here's our second one. Took my time. You'll notice that there's not that big gaping clear resin. Literally, all I did was I made up my resin. I poured some into the base of this, then I put this piece down and I put resin on it, pushed it down. I did put resin within the paw and whatnot, so because I didn't want the gray going all the way through. We do have some gray into that heart paw a little bit, but not too badly. And we were good not getting it up and over, like underneath here, I guess I should say. We didn't get any underneath, which is brilliant. I don't have an issue with it being up close like that. Yeah, so this one, and I think I have some air bubbles around this, but not like I had on this one. So I'm pleased with it. So what am I going to end up doing? Reach out to my client, number one, confirm the wording. Number two, I'll be using my Cricut to cut that out. Once I have it placed down, I will then be putting down a thin layer of clear just to seal in that wording. And then that'll be it. And that's all I'll be doing to this. I like to cover up the vinyl, just to protect it a little bit more. So that's what we'll be doing with that. Any little air bubbles that I do have, I haven't quite decided, like where I've got, so I'm noticing it right where the two colors join together is where I'm seeing some of these air bubbles. I'm not sure if I'm going to, very carefully attempt to fill them in or not. They're noticeable, yes, but not in your face noticeable. So that's a good thing. Like I said, I took my time with this. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Reaching out to my client, putting the wording on, and putting a final very thin layer of clear UV resin to cover up the vinyl and give this a sort of a final finishing off of the piece, and then it can make its way to the United States, because that's where this is going. Anyway, so that's it. I have realized for myself, as I said, anyone else, maybe under the pressure you can do it. I can't do pressure. So one of the things I thought about doing with this piece is potentially taking my chrome marker, because I don't want you to be able to see in here. I don't like that personally. So to me, I want to do something to finish it off. So I thought about using my chrome marker. I don't know about potentially taking something like a washi tape and putting around, although that might not look too good, but it'll be one of those things. I'll work with it a little bit. I'll figure out what's going to work best for me. I could take a piece of vinyl and wrap it around. I do have like solid black vinyl, so I could do that if I wanted to. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen with this one, but I am glad I took the time to make a new one. Yes, I used extra resin, but at the end of the day, that worked out for me. So the one thing I want to share with you that I've written down on my board is allow yourself grace. So I needed this. I saw that up on my board yesterday when I was sort of finishing up, and I went, yeah, sometimes we have to give ourselves a little bit of grace when it comes to doing pieces, because I know for myself, it is so easy to come down on myself when something isn't exactly the way I want it. I feel much better having redone this. I couldn't. It just wasn't working for me. And other people may think, well, you're being way too hard on yourself and it looks beautiful, and fair enough. But just for me, it wasn't right. So that's why I needed to redo it. So for me, custom pieces won't be done on camera anymore. And I'm going to do my best to allow myself grace when it comes to working on pieces, and not be as challenged as I have been. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you have any comments, please leave them below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're tough on yourself when it comes to doing pieces like this. And or if you're one of these people that, you've got a piece to do and you don't do it on camera. I'm talking about those people who are doing YouTube videos and whatnot. But in general, just let me know your thoughts below. Thank you for everyone who is following me. I truly appreciate it, and let's keep building those numbers up. Anyway, have a great creative day. Take care, and bye for now.